Cross or Kachikwae. Kachikwae is our name for the game. We don't call it a sport. For us, it's not a sport. At times, it was used to settle serious disputes rather than having a war. We'd have a game. And somebody always wins, and somebody always loses in this game. But for us, we've never been defeated. Lost plenty, but never been defeated. So over these 1,000 years or so, there's a spectrum of activities which you're familiar with to some extent, and probably a whole lot that you're not familiar with. The landfall of Christopher Columbus, 1492, a little over 500 years ago, has changed the whole face of the Western Hemisphere. It's, after 500 years, it looks quite different. Today, we have tremendous differences, things that were different from when I was a kid. But the one thing that always remained constant at Onondaga was the game. And in the spring, we have a ceremony. And the ceremony is open at this particular time. We open it when the sap begins to move in a maple, which is generally in February. And we have a ceremony. We have a ceremony for all the trees. And the maple is the leader of the trees in our cosmology. And so when that sap starts to move, the blood starts to move in our men, and they're getting ready for the game, just like anything else. So when the sap finishes running, then we will close that ceremony. So it is open right now. The sap is running right now. And as I saw this afternoon, it's running into your young men. They're out there with their sticks on the field. Quite a good lot of boys, Coach. Quite a good lot of boys. I've seen many of them. Played this game for a long time. Coach Simmons from Syracuse, the old man, he was a boxing coach as well for Syracuse. That's when universities were still boxing. And he was a lacrosse coach. He was also a football coach. And so he would come down to Onondaga in the spring and say, you boys want to come on up and scrimmage my team? And we always said, sure, we come up. And we'd scramble together some guys and we'd go up there and scrimmage the Syracuse team. And what he wanted was he wanted the boys to see what lacrosse stick handling looked like, with people who could do that. And so we always looked forward to that. We always had a good time up there and a good contest. And later on, as I became more familiar with the university, I found out that Coach Laurie Cox was coaching Syracuse way back in 1925 and 30. And that he said that my father was the best goalkeeper he ever saw. And then I found a picture of my father playing against the Syracuse University in the old stadium. And I said, well, you know, time marches on, and here I am. And so after coming out of the service, I went into the Army, and finally landed up with the 82nd Airborne, and found a lot of Indians there, and I found a lot of Irish guys in the Airborne. But anyway, during that time, I came back out, and I was eligible for aid for going to school. And so we were playing our spring schedule as usual, and Coach Simmons says, well, how'd you like to play on my side for once? I said, well, I don't know. I never thought about it. He said, well, think about it. Well, eventually I did. And so I went to Syracuse on the GI Bill. And 1957, Syracuse had its first undefeated season. And I had the very good luck of playing with a strong team. Roy Simmons Jr. was just a young fellow then, and Jim Brown. Jim Brown was our face-off center man coming out of Manhasset, Long Island. He could play. He could play lacrosse, I'll tell you that. People said, does he really know? I said, that man is good. I said, he's not just a very strong player. Good man to have on your side. And I still keep track, and we still are good friends today. But they gave me an opportunity, to look at different things. And I was an artist, as I pointed out, and I went to New York, as everybody does, to test yourself out. And I spent 10 years down there, and wound up as one of the art directors and finally planning director for a company called Norcross Greeting Cards, and I worked for almost all of the advertising firms, and I did a lot of graphic art, and took into sports a lot, which I knew, and played lacrosse with the New York City Lacrosse Club. I just no more than got into town, as a young guy would, and was over at the YMCA, is where everybody winds up to begin with, for $8 a night and a place to sleep as you go out and look for a job. Man knocks on my door. It's Dr. Schoenbaum, call him Piney. Well, he says, you're Oren Lyons. Says, yeah. He says, you're going to play with us. It was a New York Lacrosse Club, Piney Schoenbaum. I wasn't in town any more than 4 days, I think, then he was knocking on my door. So I played with them, and of course made friends with people that play lacrosse. Usually come from schools that play lacrosse, which is usually the Ivies and so forth. So I got a lot of help from that. And meanwhile, back home, we always fielded a team. And one of our annual events, Coach Simmons, we asked Coach Simmons to be our speaker. Yes, he said, I will be. So he was our guest speaker at our Underdog AC, Underdog Athletic Club. And he said, during the war years, in the 40s, he said, almost all of the teams, the university teams and so forth, gave up sports. He said, because everybody was gone. He said, and he said, lacrosse was very hard hit by that, because they didn't have that many people playing it to begin with, and then everybody's off. But he said, you fellas never quit playing that game. And he said, I think, he said, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have lacrosse at the university now. I thought it was an amazing statement, something we would never think about. Because no matter what university was or was not playing, we were playing. We were playing the Senecas or Mohawks or the Cayugas or the Six Nations. We were playing every year, all the time. So it was an interesting statement to me. But what happens, as a player, you get a lot back. You get a lot back when you play this game. And I've got a lot back from the game. I've got much more than I ever gave to it. And I met a lot of friends, and some are still here. It's getting pretty thin out there now for my age group. But I've watched the game grow, and I see what it is today. And it's probably one of the fastest growing games in the whole world. Everybody wants to play it. And in 2015, the Onondaga Nation, Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois are hosting the world's indoor box lacrosse tournament at Syracuse. So come on up and watch the games. We'll have about 16 or 18 countries coming in, playing the indoor game. And we'll be fielding a team in Denver, July 9th to the 19th, with the World Games in Denver. And our boys will be on the field with our flag and our anthem and our colors. And we'll be playing against the USA and against Canada and against England and all those good old boys that we've known for 500 years. We're still on the field. We're still on the field with them. I remember a game with England. We were playing, I think it was Baltimore World Tournament, and we beat his team, England. We beat, and actually it was my son Rex that put the winning goal in with about 15 seconds to go in the game. And the old man who was taking care of England, he was mad. He was red in the face. He was getting after his team, you know. I mean, why are you getting? So I come over and I said, hey. I knew him very well. I said, 500 years. He says, God damn you Indians. He says, but it was fun. It was fun. And it is. The game is fun. So, like I say, this stick here, we saw this some time back as we were looking. We were looking at your museum and what you had in your collections. And I saw this. I don't know what the year is. Do we have a year on this? 1840? Not that old. Not that old. But I looked at it and I saw that this was a medicine stick. This was made for somebody who called for a game. I know because I saw the ball here. And I looked at the handshake. Two handshaking hands here in the ball. And I knew this was made for somebody, for a game. And if you look at it, it looks a little different than the ones today. Our nets are about here. But this was designed for big fields. And I made a stick like this just to see what it was for. And I found out that you could throw 150 yards, 200 yards with this. It was designed for long fields because that's where they used to play. Today, the fields are short. The stick is designed to short passes, fast passes. So technology has advanced. The stick hasn't changed. It's still the same, except now you're using Tupperware. You're not using hickory anymore. And our defensemen always play with wooden sticks in the World Games. And I hear the guys crying even like, well, you got your wooden these out. And I said, come on, everybody played with this stick one time. What are you crying about? But this was made for somebody. And I have no idea why. But somebody was not well. And they called for a game. And so when that happens, when you call for a game, and then immediately what will happen is that they will go to one of the leaders of the game itself, an elder, and he'll call in a speaker, and he'll announce that we have a game coming. So the word will go out to the players, and the community goes into full, let's say, some kind of action. Because the women have a great deal to do with this game, and they handle the feast side of it. They work with the feast side of it, and they work with the food side of it. Because if you're having a game for somebody, then it's going to be a feast. It's going to be a spiritual event. So everything has to be made that day, including the ball. Same day, the food, the ball. And then you put the word out. So our community has many clans, and the clans designate the house that you're in. So my side, the house, is the wolf, and the turtle, and the beaver, and the snipe. Those clans sit in my side, the house, and the chiefs and the leaders of those clans are there. And on the other house is the bear, and the deer, and the eel, and the hawk. They're leaders on that side of the house. And the Tadadaho, the head of our confederacy, sits here, and we take wolf over here, beavers, and we take from each side, they sit the third side, and the people are on the fourth side. So when we choose the games, then the clan will determine what side you're playing on. Or you can do the old style, which is old guys against young guys. And they like that game. Everybody likes that game. And pretty even. We win, they win. Pretty even game. But to 3. 3 or 5. And if you really want to punish somebody, 7 goals. And that means you could be playing for 2 days. But 3, we usually play 3. First 3 goals win. That can go on for an hour or 2 hours. It all depends, or it could be over in 10 minutes. It's fast, but it's the old style. 2 poles over on this end, 2 poles over on that end, and they throw the ball up. Game is on. No referees, no whistle, no nothing. Game is on. Play fair, play hard, no quarter asked, none given. And the harder you play, the better it is for the person you're playing for. And you're playing on a spiritual level now. You're representing the whole spiritual side of things. So anybody that picks up a stick is moving into an arena that they never were before. And when you're playing that kind of a game, then it's a whole different feeling. People love this medicine game. Underdog, I played about 18 games last year, and I played in a couple of them, sort of. I mean, I was on the field, I had my stick. I remember I was standing there with my stick, and my opponent come over next to me. He was a boy about right here. Bumped me. I looked at him. I said, "We're about even." That was fun. So after the game, but before the game, and they build a fire, then the speaker will speak on behalf of the person that it's for, and all the players will lay their stick to the fire, and then he'll talk about what the game is about. Why this tree is important. Why this net representing all the animals in the world is important. And their duties, how they serve our people. And he talks about the responsibility we have to this earth, because this is what we're representing, the spiritual side of things. And then the feast is set over here, and when the game is over, the ball is the medicine. You don't know where it's going. You do your best to get it in the net or the goal, but the ball is the medicine. And coach was good enough to give me a ball here, and I see if I remember it. Oh yeah, here it is. Hear that? Can't press that with your fingers. I was a goalkeeper. I was a goalkeeper for over 35 years. I've seen a lot of these balls come in my direction. Some went in, some didn't. But the ball that you make for the medicine game is made that day. And it's usually made from the leather from the deer. It's up to the person. And the game is over, then the ball is given to the person it was for. And they become part now of the society. This is a society. And they have a responsibility for the next person that's coming, the next person that asks. So that's what this game is about here. That's what this stick was about. And I don't know the person it was for and how it wound up here, but at one time it served a very, very strong purpose for some individual. It's well made. This wood is still good. Probably could re-net this thing and make it work. So the ball. We were playing, and there was a group of people making a film that came from Italy. And we were having a game at Onondaga, outdoor box lacrosse. And they pulled in, and they said, we want to ask your leaders a question. And we said, what was that? And at that time, there was a rocket, a manned rocket heading for the moon. It was on its way. And they made their way to Onondaga to ask us what we thought about that rocket going to the moon. And we said, gee, we hadn't thought about that at all, really. They said, well, we would like to have a response. So I said, well, there's a game going on. Go down there and make yourself comfortable. And we'll call a meeting, and maybe tomorrow we'll have an answer. That's what happened. But during the game, they came up and they said, these balls come from Italy. And at that time, I guess that's where they came from, And we were, of course, surprised. But anyway, we had an answer the next day. And we said, well, if there are any people there, warn them. As people coming for your land. There were some flags planted up there. We've seen those flags before. So it goes on, doesn't it? It goes on. The Iroquois Nationals started with Slugger, Roy Simmons Jr., my old teammate from Syracuse. He was fussing with, he liked antiques. He said, you guys used to play? I said, yeah. He said, why don't you play the Canadians, an exhibition match? 1983. I said, geez, we haven't fielded an outdoor lacrosse team in a while. Let me ask the boys. So I talked to them. They said, oh, why not? Sure, let's do it. Well, we did. We went down there. We played 1983, Baltimore, Maryland, Homewood Field. And we got shellacked. we were shellacked. I mean, really. I remember Jim Brown was there at the game. He says, hey, you guys are getting beat bad. I said, well, this will whet their appetite. And certainly they said, we're going to play these guys again. So we played again the next year, 1984. And if you remember, the Olympics was being boycotted then by Russia. Remember that, 1984? People having a hard time. So they're holding the games over in Los Angeles. So we said to Canada, you guys want to play? Yeah, sure, we'll play. So we went over and we talked to the Olympic Committee, and they said, well, you can't play during the Olympics, but you can play before or after, and we'll support it. So we played before. And so as we were getting ready, Australia was touring Canada, and they said, you guys got a game going. We said, yeah, well, can we play? We said, sure, come on down. Now we got to get another team. We got to have 4. So we said to California, can you guys roster the team? Sure, we can. So then we had kind of a team from California, and then we got a call from England. What's going on over there? You guys playing? So England was there. Finally, America, we got a call from USA Lacrosse. Hey, what the hell's going on? You're not calling us. Well, come on then. So we had a big tournament. We did a lot better. we did a lot better. We've been playing ever since. But our team, our players, were very, very good players. Always were. Good state candidates, but never had the discipline. Never had the discipline. So it took us now 30 years, and they're getting the discipline now. And last year, the year before, under 19, we defeated the USA in Finland. And it's going to be a good contest this year. So it's going to be in Denver, July 9th to the 19th. And there'll be a lot of lacrosse balls flying around. So with Slugger, my old teammate, Syracuse being my alma mater, we really pushed the idea of advancing lacrosse. We joined the Lacrosse Federation, International Lacrosse Federation, when there were just 4 teams, the USA, Canada, Australia, and England. Good old boys. I said, well, the guys need the 5th team. Okay, so I said, the Iroquois. We said, all right. So we played our first game with them, first tournament in Perth, Australia in 1990, or as they say in Australia, naughty. And everybody was happy. And we played in 94 in Baltimore, or 94 in England, 98 in Baltimore, and up to now. So now we have a good, fast team. Coach, you would like to see them run. They're up and down the field fast, and they're all good stick handlers. And all our older boys are fading out now. We're going to have a good, fast, young team. So it's going to be a good contest in Denver. But the game has always been played in the Six Nations. Now they have a two-stick game that's played by the Choctaws, Chickasaws, Seminole, Southwest. They have a two-stick or a long stick, sort of. Great Lakes, same idea. But the long stick game, two-handed stick, that's Six Nation, that's Iroquois. And from that. So what happens is in the dynamics and the change of the field, the head of the stick got a lot smaller. So I asked my son Rex, I said, how come you don't use that wooden stick in a field? He said, I can't hide it good enough. He said, those guys are good with that long stick. So you have a short head on that, on the Tupperware. It's easier to hold in here and hide. So you don't see too many of our short stick shooters out there, but once in a while you will. But the long stick, defense stick, that works. And you get a good poke with one of those sticks, it makes you think once or twice before you're going to come through again. So I think there's over 43 countries playing the game now. In 1990, there was 5. That's an amazing. Now, China is going to be playing. China will have a team. Russia will have a team. But of course, they're going to be playing at the lower level. The blue division, the best teams out are still the same. That now includes Japan. Japan has made the blue division. They're good. They're disciplined. And as soon as they can give up being so gentlemanly, they're going to advance. But you can depend on it. So it's a good tournament, and I think it's a great game. And once you pair up the stick, it's awful hard to lay down. The women are playing. The women have been playing for a long time, as a matter of fact. In our cosmology, women don't play. They run the game. They're there with all the events, but they don't pick the stick up. And so, but we are fielding a women's team coming out of Six Nation, Canada. So they are going to play. So now we have 4 teams. We have the R19 men's field team. We have the men's field team. We have the indoor box men's team. And we have the women's team. So it means every year we are playing. Which means every year we have to meet an enormous budget. It's a huge budget to move a team wherever they're going to play. Then, of course, I don't know who remembers our discussion about passports. 2010, UK said we're not going to recognize your passport. I said, you guys are, what's up, boys? What's up? So that's still roiling about, but that won't be a problem here in these games. So as the game advances and magazines come out, now we have 4 or 5 lacrosse magazines. We started a magazine out of New York. We're way ahead of the curve, and it didn't quite take yet. But now we have all kinds of magazines and people selling equipment and sticks and everything else. And game is growing, and we're glad. It's our gift. So now, a little bit about another enterprise. Okay, can we run that? We'll see. We'll talk about that.
This idea with Plantagon was born, it's about 10 years ago now. I was sitting at the World Trade Center with Chief Oren Lyons. He's now the chairman and representative of the main owner of Plantagon. And then I remembered an innovator that contacted me about 2 years before that time with a spectacular idea of how to grow vertical. We founded Plantagon at the beginning of 2008. January 29th, 2008, on Onondaga Nation, we founded Plantagon. We have an extremely good innovation and a global demand for our innovation.
Hi, my name is Stefan. I'm coming from Seneca. We are the engineers in this project, and we are working generally with sustainable concepts. And this is very interesting for us to be in this project because we think that we can have something very interesting to give to this project according to those engineering concepts that we are working with generally all over the world. And this is important, especially for me, because I think that we need to have something for the future and next generation to produce food. And greenhouse and growing crops on a high level is something for the future. So that's why I'm in this project together with Plantagon.
That's just to let you know we're just not playing lacrosse all the time. It is a major innovation, and we're working around in markets around the world, meeting the issue of populations in urban centers, and of course dealing with global warming, dealing with the reality out there, where you're just not going to be able to plant fairly soon. And with projections of so much populations going into central cities, it's an innovation that I don't think is going to solve a food situation worldwide, but it's certainly going to help. And working with SWACO, which is the, I think, second largest engineering firm in Europe based on environment. We're advancing fast. I don't think the globe will ever be built. The last one you saw, the vertical farm, is outproducing what a globe could do by many, many, many times. So the globe could outproduce any greenhouse by 5 times or 6 maybe. And now the one that you saw there is 100 times any greenhouse. So the innovation moves on, and it's built on a Rotary. Amazing. So Onondaga is the owner, or we own it, and our company is based in Stockholm. It's a Swedish company. And innovation, all the work is going on over there. So we want to bring it here to this country, which you will need. But there's tremendous interest, of course, in Asia, China. We're working with China. We're working with Hong Kong and India, and also the Mideast. You know, where food is a tremendous problem already. So with global warming coming and the change in your weather, you're going to have a very hard time to plant at all outside. So you're going to be protecting your plants. You're going to have to protect your plants. Last year, Southwest corn burned, lost over 40% of their corn. The year before, fires in Russia had the president of Russia announcing this is global warming. And it is. It's serious. I'm just amazed at the politics of this country that doesn't allow the subject to be discussed. It's serious. It's really serious. And if you're concerned about the future, you're going to have to deal with food. I call it food security. So there's an innovation with this beyond the innovation of growing. It's the structure. 10% of Plantagon belongs to the public. 10% belongs to a nonprofit section who will take profits from here and send it back out to the world to do good. We're trying to set an example for corporations to share. Share. You don't need everything. I remember when we first, we had some venture capitalists look at the contracts, and they came back and they said, "You're giving away 10% of your company." We said, "Yeah, we know that. You can't do that." Well, why not? We got 90%. What are you talking about? And so it's that kind of a mindset. So it is an innovation, and it's a bank. It turns out to be a bank for the company. And it goes back out to do good. And it is not 10% of the profit, it is 10% of the company. They have their own board, and they have their own direction. Right now I'm chairman of the board of the big company, but very soon I'm going to move over there to the 10% board and present this idea of sharing. It's not competition, business as usual, over. It's cooperation now, working together for a common good. When I was 20 years old, 1950, there were 2.5 billion people in the world. 64 years later, over 7 billion. Within 64 years, folks. You have to pay attention to those figures, those numbers. That's not a sustainable number. It's serious. So, equity then, what the peacemaker said 1,000 years ago. Equity, fairness to the people. Good leadership. Forward-looking leadership. It seems to be just the opposite now, you know. Everybody's concentrating right to the millisecond. That's where your attention is. You suddenly look out this way, and you look into the future, there's some pretty big eyes out there looking back at you. That's where you're going to be looking at out there. So we're hoping, you know, that the philosophy of the Haudenosaunee, which is to share, will be an example with Pentagon for people to follow. And we've won a lot of prizes already, and we haven't really, first one's going up in Linköping, south of Stockholm. Small one, it's about maybe 19 stories. The one we're designing for Shanghai is 142 stories, if you can imagine. I mean, the technology is way beyond me. I can't keep track of it. It's moving so fast. But good, positive. And Hans is a perfect CEO. He's brilliant, and he is serious about this whole idea of sharing. He said, I want to work with you because you people have a principle that I want to work with. And I think we all got to pick that principle up. That's what we should be looking at. Working together, cooperation, big time for the future, for all those kids. Those kids on the field, we're handing them a pretty tough future right now. And so we have to look to that. So Pentagon is one way of doing it, and I'm sure there's going to be others as time comes, but let's hope. Let's hope that the principles that the peacemaker brought to us over 1,000 years ago, peace, equity, and union, the power of the good minds. It was our union that influenced Franklin. He said, when he was looking at the meeting that was held in Lancaster, Pennsylvania in 1744, they were talking about, one of our chiefs said to I think there were four governors that were arguing over land. And one of the chiefs said to them, he said, you people never going to amount to anything until you learn how to work together. Why don't you make a union like ours? He said, look how respected we are. Look how old we are. And he went on. And in 1775, on the eve of the revolution, we had a meeting with your founding fathers in Albany. And they said to us, in 1744, you advised us to make a union like yours, and now we're going to take your advice. That's about as direct as you can get. They said, we see how old you are, how respected you are. And we teach our children, they said, about the bundle of arrows, the union. Because 1,000 years ago, when the peacemaker was talking to our leaders, he took 5 arrows representing the Mohawks, the Oneidas, the Onondagas, Cayugas, and Senecas. And he took the sinew from the deer, and he bound those arrows. And he said, here's your strength. Here's your union. That's 1,000 years ago. And it served us. It served us well. And we added the same information to your leaders. And Benjamin Franklin was printing that book. He was printing the treaty, 1744. And he says, this is a good idea. So 1754, 10 years later, he called the Albany Plan of Union. And he asked us to preside and explain democracy. That's where your government came from. And you don't know that. I'm a professor of history, 37 years. And I had to make my own books because you don't teach that history. Your people don't know that history. And it doesn't serve you. You've got to teach the history, the true history. So, I was just reminded, this young lady over here brought a picture of Jake Swamp. who's an old friend of mine, now passed on to the next world. But he always planted the tree of peace, you know, the white pine. That was the symbol that the peacemaker gave to us. This great white pine, he said, I have 4 white roots of truth, peace in the 4 directions. He said, all those seeking its protection follow the root back to its source. That's a big idea in a root. 1992 in Rio, the head of UNCED at that time, Mr. Strong, asked me, he said, can you tell me what the peacemaker said? I wanted precise words. I said, yeah. He said, I have to address 194 nations tomorrow. And I want to talk about that. And I said, sure. They're all words. They're not long. And when he said that to our leaders over 1,000 years ago, he said, when you sit and you counsel for the welfare of the people, think not of yourself, nor of your family, or even your generation. He said, make your decisions on behalf of those faces looking up from the earth, layer upon layer, unto the 7th generation. That's your mandate as a leader. A long vision. So when we speak in our longhouse today, that's what we say. Across the fire yet. You leaders with the long vision. So that's what we need today. We need leaders with long vision who work for the common good. Not just people, all the animals, all the trees, all the fish. They're all one and the same. And in the meantime, play the game. Play lacrosse. Thank you.